Welcome, it's Troglodyte Freebird bringing you a beginner's guide to World of Warcraft. I'll be teaching you the basics of how World of Warcraft works so you can understand how the game works before you even start playing. I should quickly note that World of Warcraft, like many other MMOs, takes time. If you're not willing to dedicate a decent amount of time so you can level up and gear up, you're probably not going to be doing any max level content, which is what most players want in an MMO. With that said, let's move on to the basics. There are a lot of terms used in WoW, and you may be confused if you hear them. Not all of them are exclusive to WoW, but they're very useful to know either way. PvE stands for Player versus Environment, and basically just means any content you do against non-player characters. This includes questing, dungeons, raiding, and a bit more. PvP stands for Player versus Player, and means any content you can do against other players. This includes killing other players on the world, in battlegrounds, in arena, and a bit more. RP stands for role-playing, which in WoW is basically acting out your character in a social environment. This aspect of the game isn't required in any way, but some people enjoy role-playing a bit. AoE stands for Area of Effect. You'll probably see this every once in a while as a damage dealer, but you can do certain abilities to perform an attack in a certain radius. This is an AoE attack. BOP, BOE, and BOA are types of binds. Bind on pickup, bind on equip, and bind on account. Once an item has been bound to you, you cannot trade it by any normal means whatsoever. For example, if I get an item that's bind on pickup, that means that once I loot it, I can't trade it with anyone. You can assume the same type of principle with the other two forms of binding as well. That's all I'll be going over for this video. There are a lot more terms, but a lot of it you don't need to know, and I want to keep this video somewhat short. First thing you need to know is which server to choose. You'll be redirected to the character selection screen once you log into your WoW account, but you should choose your server in some cases. If you don't have friends who have an active WoW subscription, then this isn't necessary. Otherwise, make a character on a server that your friend is on to make it easier on the both of you. Although it's not too bad now, considering you can still group with them if you have their battle tag. Also, I recommend choosing a normal server because that basically means you can't get attacked by other players in regular world content. You can still choose to do battlegrounds and such, but this way they don't force you to be able to be attacked by other players. The factions are simple. Either choose Horde or Alliance. Pandaren is on a different part of the race selection because it can choose to be either faction. The most important thing to note here is that if you want to choose an Alliance character, you cannot play with a Horde character and vice versa. So if you want to play with your friends, it's crucial to get an understanding to whether they're Horde or Alliance. The races have their own passive abilities, so you can look at them if you want, but they're nothing special, so you can choose whichever race looks best to you. Classes are more difficult to decide over, but as a beginner I recommend choosing a Paladin or a Hunter due to how easy they are to play and level. I'll go more in depth on this if anyone wants me to, just say so in the comments. No matter what class you have abilities you can use to fight creatures and players. If you hover over an ability icon, you'll see its name and tooltip on what it does in the lower right corner. Doing a specific combination of abilities in combat is called a rotation. Your goal at in-game content in WoW is to find out your best possible rotations for the situation at hand and to keep away from abilities that hurt you. Depending on your class, you can also heal or tank. Healing and tanking are more advanced mechanics and aren't necessary to learn about while playing World of Warcraft, so it's best just to level up with a damage-based specialization. You can choose a specialization at level 10. You can always choose a damage specialization no matter what class you are, however some classes have healing and tank specs. It's best to not worry about healing or tanking specs until you're more familiar with WoW, so choose whichever you think suits you best as a damage dealer. Like any character in any MMORPG, you have to level up to gain access to the higher level and max level content. In order to do this, you have to gain experience. The best way to gain experience is through questing, battlegrounds, and doing dungeons. Through the next few quick sections, I'll be explaining each one. Both questing and doing dungeons are very easy, especially if you're not at max level. Questing is something that you can continually do to explore all the worlds by yourself or with a friend. Usually you're given a task or two during a quest, and if you look at the map by hitting the M key, you can see where your objective is on the map most of the time. Another way to level is by doing battlegrounds. After level 10, you can choose to queue for battlegrounds to gain honor and experience. Honor can be used to get gear, although I don't recommend buying it until you either have 4,000 honor, the maximum you can have, or hit max level. You can also earn experience by doing battlegrounds, but keep in mind that battlegrounds are areas where you primarily kill other players, and it isn't something that everyone enjoys doing. You can also level up by doing dungeons. If I remember correctly, you can queue for a dungeon starting at level 15. Dungeons are where you practice and test your skills against elite non-player characters with 4 other players. Dungeons don't involve any sort of player versus player content and is a way to gain experience and gear very quickly. For beginners, I recommend to do questing while consistently queuing for dungeons. This way you achieve a lot of experience very quickly while having a little variety as well. While leveling, you can gain materials for professions. Professions can be annoying, but they can also be valuable in some ways. For example, you can make bigger bags with tailoring, or make better armor depending on the profession you have. As a beginner, I would recommend doing 2 gathering professions so that you can focus more on leveling, get a bit of gold, and not have to worry about keeping your professions at a certain level. The 3 gathering professions are mining, skinning, and herbalism. If you choose mining as a profession, you can go around in the normal world and mine veins of different quality ore. Skinning is something you can do by simply killing beasts. All you have to do is right-click on them after you loot them. Herbalism is a profession where you can get certain types of flowers around the world. Herbalism is very similar to mining. You can just look for the yellow dot on the minimap and go to it. You'll find what you need there. Skinning is easier and just involves killing certain monsters. There are also cooking, fishing, first aid, and archaeology, but I'll let you figure out those for yourself and see if you want to do it while leveling or not. Alright, well, that's really all you need to know as a beginner in World of Warcraft. If you want to know more about how World of Warcraft works, you can find it out easily by playing a bit more. If there's something specific you want to know though, you can ask me in the comments or ask me to make a video about it in the comments. That's all for this video. Thanks for sticking around.